Welcome to the Habitat podcast.
My name's Nathan.
And I'm Kaylin. And we're two guys having a chat about our habitat. Yoo-hoo! Oh no! Where did my house go? This week we talk about disaster displacement and what it means. Enjoy.
G'day.
How you going, mate?
Good, man. How are
So
you?
Ocker, just straight up, straight into it, Aussie Ocker.
On the Ocker.
Welcome to
What is an Ocker?
Aussie Ocker.
How are you, Kaylin?
Mate, how am I?
How's it going?
I was stressed. I was very stressed today. It was a very stressful day, just trying to smash out so many things to do. And then trying to do all the extra stuff on top of that, but now I'm okay. I actually had a bit of a belly laugh before, so I'm all good. I'm good to go.
Nothing better than a belly laugh.
Yeah, I know. How about you?
Yeah, look,
What are you up
mate,
to?
I'm good. I've been belly laughing.
Belly laughy.
Belly laughing. Belly laughing all day, mate.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So it's been a good day.
I was a bit nervous about this.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, to begin with, because I started thinking about it. Now I'm just like, oh, you know what? I'm so tired.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, let's do it. Just do it. I want to go home and eat. But my passion and enthusiasm is still there, just in case anybody is asking. No, but I was like thinking about it. You know when you start thinking about things and you just overthink? Yeah.
Yeah, that overthinking definitely gets to you. But the remedy is just sort of doing it, just getting into it.
If only it could be used, that part of my brain could be used to make my work more productive. And I'll maybe finish on time.
Brain work harder.
Yeah. But anyway, we should get into it. Today's episode, number 1, first episode, welcome. And I hope you enjoyed our intro that at this stage I yet to record. Hope we enjoy it too. But yeah, so our first topic is a pretty big one, and we probably won't do it justice considering it's our first one and we're all nervous.
Yeah.
But episode 1, we are talking about disaster displacement, and this has come off the back of you and I having a conversation about the recent summer and about how we have seen the extreme bushfires that southeast New South Wales and northeast Victoria have been suffering through the last summer, 2019 to 2020. And basically the question arising, what are these people going to do? Because we've seen utter devastation rip through towns, entire towns gone, many losses of life, both animal and human, and people's livelihoods and homes and actual towns are disintegrated. So yeah, I thought this is a good one a good topic to talk about coming off the back of sustainability and climate change and where we're at, because this is, I feel, the year that a lot of people took their blinkers off and thought, okay, something is happening here. We should really start doing stuff about it. 2019, I feel like, was a really good year in making a few steps forward in climate activistness, if that's how you say it.
That's a word now.
That is now. Queen Kaylin.
Episode 1, we've coined our own words.
Yeah, activistness. But anyway, so I'll just get off. Get off?
You'll just get off.
No.
Ripper.
And that's a great start. I will start off. So with disaster displacement, focusing on the bushfires like we talked about, and also a couple other disasters, in particular cyclones and flash flooding. Just in recent Australian history is what I'm talking about. So a quote taken from the University of New South Wales is really a driving point behind disaster displacement and why I wanted to do this topic. Each year, millions of people are displaced as a result of disasters. climate change is anticipated to increase the frequency and severity of disasters and extreme weather events, which means there is likely to be even more disaster-related displacement in future.
Okay.
So I think...
So the severity of weather experiences will likely see more and more people displaced.
Exactly. So that this is a topic that we're talking about today and is going to become more and more frequent as we progress through climate change.
Right.
Because, as we know, the disasters that we're going to face are going to become more severe, they're going to become more frequent. We can just see the recent bushfires, how disastrous that was, and how much displacement that caused, which I'll get into. But yeah, there's a lot of things to come, unfortunately, and it's about preparation, I think, but we can get to that. So just some stats. We'll start in 2009 with the Black Saturday bushfires. So just so people are aware how severe they were, they are Australia's biggest death toll on bushfires.
Right.
Okay, so there were 173 people.
Damn, that's
lost
a lot of
their
people.
lives. Yeah,
Wow.
lost their lives during those bushfires. However, the recent bushfires in Australia, so summer of 2019, 2020, which are still burning as we're recording this podcast near Canberra, but they are the most severe in terms of loss of habitat.
Right.
So at the moment, the death toll is 32. So they've killed 32. The fires have killed 32 people. One of which was a firefighter, a 28-year-old volunteer firefighter, whose truck was actually flipped during going out to a bushfire, going out on a call, and his truck was flipped by a fire tornado.
The truck was flipped by a fire tornado.
Yep. So that's how intense that heat was, and the winds, to be able to create. Not only are you dealing with fire, but you're also dealing with a fire tornado.
Wow.
Yeah. And flipped our saviours, really, the people that we rely on to extinguish these things. Yep, so then, so from that December just gone, so December 2019, heat wave broke the world record, the national record of highest nationwide average temperatures. So December was the hottest December we've ever seen since recording.
Right.
Yep. As far as my research has found. This is just FYI, everybody.
Pure research.
This is just all my research that I found. Feel free to correct us on any information that we may have misstepped on. But from our fitting it into our timeline research, this is our day-to-day timeline live. This is what I found. So the damage of the bushfires, entire towns have been destroyed. Approximately 1,588 homes lost, and then an additional 650 badly damaged, uninhabitably damaged. So if you think about that, that's over 2,000 people displaced, minimum. If you put one person per home, which the average I think is 2.5, so that's a lot of people displaced.
Yeah.
So 19 million acres, or 77,000 kilometres squared, has been burnt. The majority of that is forest. So the majority of that is dense landscape. So there was a really bad bushfire, I think it was 1977, which was the most land burnt prior to this one, but most of it was grassland. So yes, grassland it's still a habitat for creatures, but it didn't have as much of an impact on our animal and wildlife, because what our animal and wildlife has suffered is approximately 500 million or 500 million of our wildlife has been lost.
500 million.
500 million. 500 million animals. And so that's not counting insects and stuff. That's counting animals and reptiles. And
Are we counting insects individually?
That's just like one beehive. Well, no, bees are actually going extinct. Mosquito hive?
Mosquito hive?
Mosquito lair? Like vampires? Because they suck at your blood?
I would assume so, yeah. They'd have like some sort of Transylvanian voice.
Yeah. That's like your blood.
Just to paint that picture for you all.
Yeah, love it. But seriously though, this is all morbid, I know. But 1/3 of the koala population has been lost. So you can see in the media, like a lot of koalas and kangaroos are at the forefront of this. That's because I think it was Dr. Chris Brown, Bondi vet. He's like, there's so many other animals that have been, that we need to pay attention to as well. And he's right. There's so many endangered species that were endangered and now they're critically endangered, and so many critically endangered species that we're in that area that we have no idea if they're even alive anymore. But we're not sponsored by Bondi vet, by the way, or Chris Brown for that matter. But koalas, 1/3 of a population of something is a lot. That's, if you think of 1/3 of a population of humans being wiped out, imagine the impact that would have.
Yeah. 3 billion.
Yeah.
A third of the population, like the global population.
Yeah.
Damn.
So koalas only live in Australia, 1/3 of their population has been wiped out. So you can imagine that's significant. So the smoke from the fires spread as far as Chile, so across from New Zealand onto South America, Chile. And what else we got? So the spread of the fire, so the reason why it was really hard to get on top of is the south. So for an example, it just spread so quickly. So for example, the East Gippsland fire spread more than 20 kilometres in 5 hours. You try running 20 kilometres in 5 hours.
Yeah, I'd be outrun. That fire's catching me.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a long way, really quickly.
Yeah.
So,
and pairing that with the Australian winds, that's propelling a fire, well into at the speed of at tremendous speeds, and you can imagine that picking up with fire tornadoes and just this wall of fire coming towards you. It'd be terrible.
Yeah. But like, even think, people like firefighters get a notification. They have to drive to this location, so it might be an hour from the closest.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Fire station. I was going to call it a fire survey. Fire survey. Yeah, just at the fire survey.
Just fill it up with some water.
yeah. And that's an hour gone. Then they have to try to catch up on that. But there's winds that are going crazy. Yeah, it's really hard to get on top of.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I don't know. I've never fought in my life. But, yeah. So the causes of these were really dry conditions caused by drought. Now, drought is obviously a big thing in Australia. We hear a lot about it, and we hear nothing about it at all, but it's still going on and has been for a very long time. So it's a climate-related disaster.
Yep.
That's been caused through, as far as we know, global warming. Obviously, there's the natural cycles that El Nino and El Nina, I think. And don't ask me what's what. I don't know. One of them's dry, one of them's wet.
Okay.
I think El Nina is dry. Feel free to correct me and let me know. Which is dry and which is wet. Yeah, putting a call out to all
El Nino and El Nina experts. That's probably, yeah.
Probably. Anyway, I feel like that's just the weatherman.
It's just your general weatherman.
Just your general weatherman.
He's your expert.
Yeah. Our local 9 News weatherman. Prime time.
So putting a call out to all weathermen.
Anyway, so what was I saying? Oh, drought.
We're talking about disaster displacement.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so drought is... so the frequency in which this is occurring is happening more rapidly and more extremely. So that's, I think, the relationship between climate change and drought.
Yeah. And it's like a compounding effect as the years go by. It starts to get even like ramping up in terms of severity of drought and weather occurrences.
Yes. Yeah. And on top of that, which is something I learned, and was the cause of majority of these bushfires, it was dry lightning strikes.
Yeah, I was aware of that too.
I had no idea what a dry lightning strike was. I didn't know you could get lightning without wet.
Exactly, yeah. That sort of caught me by surprise as well. It's actually the fire smoke coming up and creating a charge in the atmosphere, which then in turn lightning strikes the ground, creating more fires.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
But then how are they made initially?
What do you mean?
Well, if there's no smoke, how is it made?
No, it's from those fires that are created.
So then
and then
more,
it like creates
it's
more
just
cycles.
Like snowballing, like
yeah.
land.
So that cloud plume would be traveling across the land, and that's why like so many were sparking up.
Yeah,
you know.
Okay, well there you go. But also 24 people. New South Wales Police have charged 24 people with deliberately starting bushfires.
Right.
As well.
So literally taking man-made climate disasters.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. One of which was actually a firefighter.
Really?
Yep. He's a volunteer firefighter and he lit a fire.
Okay.
I don't know what his name was.
As a backburning?
Don't want to defame anyone, but no, I don't know. He just
backburning exercise?
No, not as backburning. No. He deliberately went and started a fire so we could fight it.
Really?
Yeah. That's how's that for needing to feel important?
Yeah. Center of the universe.
Yeah. And then obviously high winds and fast movement, like we discussed before. So other displaced. So that's the recent fires. I thought it was a good topic to start with because it's just happened. You know, just before we released this podcast. One of the stimulants to creating this.
Yep.
One of many. But other disasters that have created some displacement is Cyclone Yasi. Yasi. Y-A-S-I.
Okay,
Yasi.
when did that happen?
2011. So it was northern northern Queensland through Townsville, I believe.
Yep.
So for all listeners who are international...
Yep. Australia is copping a pounding.
Yeah, that. And I was just going to tell them where Townsville was. Queensland is the northernmost state, and it's massive. And Townsville is like halfway up on the east coast. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Probably not all the way halfway up.
Well, that's about... If you want to get technical about it, it's probably about...
Get up the maps.
Yeah, about a stone's throw away from Brisbane.
That's a good arm.
That's a bloody good arm. No, but yeah, that's probably accurate. About halfway between Brisbane and Cairns.
Yeah, I think so.
About
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Anyway. So it destroyed 800 homes and an additional 2.2k or 2,275 to be exact sustained really bad damage and they weren't inhabitable. Cyclone Debbie, so that was 2017. That wreaked havoc on mid-north Queensland as well, so Rockhampton area came in. Brisbane here, we were almost like on cyclone alert, like we might get a cyclone. And I love like the idea of being in a cyclone. I don't like want that to happen to anybody, but I just like obsessed with like natural disaster in general. And I was just like, oh my God, we could get a cyclone. Like, I want it. I don't want it. but I want it, but I don't want it. It's like an internal battle happening within myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, I always had a fascination with like tornadoes as well. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because I can see your face light up when
Yeah,
you mention
yeah.
fire tornadoes.
Yeah, that's a bit extreme, but like I would want to see one.
That was a bit of a pun joke there, but yeah.
My fire.
My face lit up.
Oh my god, I got it. That's straight over my head. Excellente, well done. Yeah, okay. So, where was I? Oh yeah, but that cyclone became an ex-cyclone and started causing flash flooding.
Okay.
In northern New South Wales. Also Logan, which is a local city near Brisbane. And then went across, just diddle-daddled its way across the ocean to New Zealand and caused flash flooding there.
Yep, another reason for the New Zealanders to complain about Australians.
Yeah, seriously. All you give us is cyclones,
stop sending us your bloody flash flooding.
Our main export is natural disaster. Anyway, so that is a brief overview of recent Australian history of natural disaster and the displacement that it has caused. We've touched on the displacement. Like, we can imagine now how severe these particular events create displacement. Yeah. So how we more or less analyze a natural disaster. A lot of us think, a lot of people think on a human level, but during the disaster, but then after the disaster, we kind of forget, I feel, of all these people that, you know, have suffered from this, have lost their homes. They don't have anything to go back to anymore. And if you just imagine not being able to go to your home tonight because it was a really bad weather day, you know, that must suck.
Yeah, actually just reflecting on that now. I mean, we're having a crazy downpour in the city today, and to even reflect on not being able to go home because of that, it's quite alarming, and really you can empathise with the people that have fallen victim to the recent fires. You know, they have to escape their home because of, you know, incoming fires, and then they don't know whether they can return or not. Yeah.
I can understand why people want to stay and fight, because the thought of leaving it means they've lost it. Yeah. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is a house and it's a home, and it has been the shell to the creation of many of your memories. But at the end of the day, is it worth your life? No. You know, as soon as you die, your memories go with you. It's better to, I feel, just get out when you can, when people have given you that advice, the professionals who understand more than you most likely, to just get out and just say, hey, look, I've got my family, I'm in a safe spot, that's all that matters. I have my memories, hopefully the house survives. If it doesn't, that's okay. You know, we can move past that. But it's in the interim, isn't it? It's that being displaced, not having somewhere to go, and what happens to those people during that time.
Yeah, I suppose they, you know, you can understand like a lot of frustration within that time, and searching for a place to stay, and searching for aid, and searching for just general things to eat. You know, it's most people don't have access to that. You know, their town has been, you know, almost quarantined with any incoming supplies, so they literally have to live off rations. And it's like, it must be such a stressful time, and it's hard to, you know, convey that sense of despair without actually having lived it myself.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you can only like imagine what it would be like, but I can imagine it would be quite a intense period of time and very stressful. And I think what I'm gravitating towards is more like what we can do from an outside perspective of people who aren't subject to these fires. What can we do? And was there anything in your research that you found that pointed towards that? What people can do?
Don't go put me on the spot like that.
Oh
man! don't be like, tell me all the facts. No. No. Look, to be honest, there probably is stuff out there. Did I find it? No. Did I put much effort in? I tried as hard as I could in the small time that I had. No, but that is an interesting topic. That's a really interesting thing to do. I mean, you just think about the recent efforts of people with the Red Cross. I think it was the main donation funnel for the people of the disaster displacement for the recent bushfires.
Yeah.
And I suppose there's a point, I remember there was a point that people were giving things, they were giving blankets and they were giving food and then it got to a point where people couldn't keep up and they thought, enough is enough, like we can't do this, we just need cash, we need to get these people back onto their feet, we need to rebuild their homes, we need to do these things, and the best thing you can do to us now is give us cash donations so we can help these people. Then there was a whole lot of like politics involved, where the money was going and blah blah blah. Don't want to get into that, but I suppose it comes down to trust, doesn't it? It comes down to the general person, you and I, who haven't been affected by the disaster, to give to somebody, trust somebody who is a professional at giving, to be able to do that.
So you, as in giving money to the charities and they would distribute it?
Yes. Yeah, where it's most needed. That's what the thought. That's where I go, I think. Other than physically getting down there and doing something yourself and helping people rebuild their houses or doing some design work for them or, then, I don't think... What else can you do? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, other than, literally getting your hands dirty and just travelling down and building someone's house or, giving a helping hand, just cleaning up and, doing whatever you can around the communities. It's... What else can you do? Because... And, I suppose that's the common reaction from the general public. They just sort of pump money into these organisations and charities that will distribute it from there. And then, you're right, it's that level of trust of, okay, I trust this charity or organisation to use my money wisely. And rebuild these communities.
And it'd be interesting to know as we progress further through... be interesting to see as we progress further into more climate-related disasters. What happens with policy change and what happens with availability for those people, and by availability I mean in the sense that both physical materials and also a governing body to that situation. At the moment we're relying on essentially volunteers to be able to step up and do this, and we're relying on already existing charities that do great things day in and day out but may not have necessarily dealt with disasters before. I'm pretty sure Red Cross is one of the charities that has dealt with many disasters in its existence. But it'd be interesting to watch this space and see what happens and how we operate and how that may change.
I want to go back to a point that you raised. Well, it's kind of like a fact of life, really. Like, natural disasters are always going to occur.
Yeah.
So I think taking that into consideration and as a fact of life, how do we then approach it in the future, and what is the best possible outcome for people who are displaced and who do experience these weather occurrences? So is it in policy, as soon as a natural disaster happens, does government step in, or do we rely on private organisations to get involved? Or, it's kind of banding together as like as a global and a local community to say, all right, we're all subject to whether it's like a fire or flooding or anything natural disaster related. It's saying, all right, we've all got to rally together and get together and rebuild our communities, because like, why would we leave our brothers and sisters out in the cold?
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose what I'm getting at is like, what's the most powerful way of creating a response to something that always happens?
Yeah.
Where is that?
And is there one way?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, I'm a very analytical mind and like to have a process for most things that I do. But there's got to be a point where, and I feel like a lot of authority operates in that way, because you set in a process, you follow protocol, you follow a procedure, you get the task done.
Yep.
But I feel like it's literally going to be a case-by-case basis. We don't know what the disaster is to be able to deal with it. We don't know what the loss of habitat is, what the loss of life is, what we're going into. Are people accessible? Are they not accessible?
Yeah.
Where do we put them? Once we have collected them, and you look at, what was it, Louisiana? No, what was that cyclone? Tracy? Was it Tracy? Cyclone Tracy, and it was a really famous one. Or was it New Orleans? New Orleans, and it's like under sea level. Don't know. It was like below sea level, and then the cyclone like just flooded everything.
They had those seawalls built because it was...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was basically like a submerged...
Yeah. That's right, yeah. But you think of them, they just got all the displaced people. I think that was in the hundreds of thousands from memory, but I'm not 100% sure. But they got all those people and put them in the stadium. And then what they found was there was a lot of crime happening in the stadium. People felt unsafe. They didn't feel like, not only were they displaced from their home, but then they felt the extreme level of unsafe and uncertain, and stayed there for a very long time, for being a displaced person. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. One of the I think it comes down to local heroes, and one of the local heroes that recently, at the moment, one of the local heroes recently was, with the recent bushfires, there was a lady who owned a motel, or managed a motel, and she had empty space. So instead of charging people for the space, she just put people in there. And then she went a step further and was like, well, I have 3 empty bedrooms and an empty lounge room and in my house. So come to that, and she's just started randomly picking these people to come. And I remember in her interview, she said, I didn't know how to pick these people. It was literally just a case-by-case basis. It wasn't like an interview. And it's those spare-of-the-moment decisions that people are making that is like, I can help here. What can I do? What have I got that I can give that can help? And for people who are far away, like us up here in Brisbane, when it happened down on the border of New South Wales and Victoria, we can give financial aid. People who are local give their spare blankets and their towels and all the physical things that they have. And then people who may not have the ability to give anything physical but can give space. It's good to see that has crept into it this time around as well. You know, and I think it's those local heroes that we need to shine a light on, in a way of saying that is an excellent thing that you've done. It gives me faith in humanity again. You know, there's like this balance right now where I'm just like, humanity is just destroying the earth, and we can see the effects of that now, and I'm just like, how are we going to ever push forward? And then in those moments of crisis, we see these wonderful human beings come out of it, and it's like,
and they should be praised and, you know, given an award or something, you know. To encourage that sort of, you know,
it's just
not that they're doing it for any sort of recognition or praise or anything, but like, if a governing body or like a local authority that's in charge of like a group, like a statewide community, they recognize that behavior and then bring it into the light, and it sets an example for everyone. It's like
that's exactly right. And you've said it, you've hit the nail on the head. It's about not necessarily giving an award. It's about recognition, recognizing that this act is taking place, and other people seeing that this is happening, so other people think, I can be doing this too.
Yeah.
And it's about that community coming together and then broadening to hopefully get everyone back on their feet as quick and as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, and that's a great point to raise as well, the response and the turnover time for when a natural disaster happens. It's almost like you can visualize a natural disaster happens, people are displaced, quick turnover of, you know, pop-up structures where they can temporarily find refuge and find their comfort, you know, because they've just been pushed out of their homes. In this case of the bushfires, they've been pushed out, and it's quite a violent gesture to make, you know, on someone's livelihoods. It's where as you said, where their memories are stored, and they don't even know if their memories are going to be kept alive. So it's that temporary structure that they can find a temporary home in and feel supported.
Yeah, security.
Yeah.
Feel some sense of security.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because just to take my analogy or example further, which I said before about imagine you going home and not having a house. They're saying, where do I go? Come here. Everyone's coming to this place. Okay, that's fine. In the moment in time when I don't know what to do, I'm going to follow what the authorities say. I'm going to go to this place. The adrenaline's pumping through. You know, even the next day, the day after, it's happening now. But then it's kind of like, well, when it becomes a week and 2 weeks and you're still not having that sense of security, you're still not having that sense of ownership of anything, you know, you start questioning. I can imagine, I've never been in that position, but I can imagine you start questioning so many other things and quality of life, and wouldn't be good for physical health, wouldn't be good for mental health. So you're right, it's about creating that temporary home, essentially. Someone to have security, be comfortable, and all in all, be safe.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And supported.
Safe and supported. Yeah, and that's like one of the core tendencies of what a home is, you know. We want to feel safe and supported in our homes, and that's why we have homes, or why we call places homes.
Yeah.
Which usually takes the, you know, manifestation of a house. But in saying that, how do you instill that on someone that has just been displaced?
And that's the thing, I don't think you can force somebody to feel something. I think you can give them the tools and the opportunities to be able to create something,
Okay.
and then there's a sense of ownership, I suppose.
Yeah.
Just spitballing, but
No, that's a good point. And like, if we were to lead into that, it's giving the resources to them in order to take ownership of their, rebuilding.
Yeah.
But also having a helping hand. It's like, it could be in the form of helping hands, it could be in the form of receiving donations.
Yeah.
It's just that energy exchange of, people outside of your community saying, we recognize you, we see you,
Yeah.
and we want to help in any way we can.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. Encouragement,
Yeah.
assistance.
So in your findings, was there any sort of reflection on how to run your sort of analytical mind over it? What a good outcome would be after each
Assessment. So the
Assessment.
biggest thing is assessment.
assessment?
So assessment during, assessment after,
Mm.
and then assessment beyond that. So, for example, your town burns down.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? Do you rebuild your town?
Mm.
Or do you assess its location? Do you assess its access to resources now?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you hold on to the sentimental value
Mm.
of location? And it's about assessment. It's running it through every possible way. New Orleans, it's about, for example, building a bigger wall. And not in the Trump way, but building, elevating houses, doing that assessment. It's like, okay, what have we done wrong here? And we're going to have to rebuild in some description, and take into account that sense of identity that these displaced people have with a particular location or a particular geographical monument.
Yep.
So yeah, it's
Yeah, no, I think that's a really strong point, and it really speaks to learning from each experience. I mean, we've already spoken about natural disasters being a fact of life. They're always going to be there, and one way of assessing it is also assessing our contributions to climate change as one avenue.
Yep.
And I think the strength of your point is also talking about assessing the local situation there. So, is this town built in an appropriate location, and should we reassess into another location? And it's having that conversation. It's like, it's opening up that conversation.
Yes.
Sure, devastation has happened, but it opens up a new conversation, and it's saying, all right, clearly something has happened.
Yep.
Do we continue with that pattern? Do we continue to build in the same fashion, or do we need some form of resilience? Because I think that's the power of the human spirit, to have that resilience. We're such a resilient bunch of primates that run around on planet Earth
on two legs instead of four.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, is resilience. And I think from the disasters, if I reflect on that, one shining thing that comes through is resilience of people.
Yeah.
But it's just good to keep in the back of your mind that place is vulnerable. And it comes down to people, humanity, community, and resilience. Yeah. Overarching.
Yeah.
Well, good T1, bruh.
Good T1.
Good T1. EPO1.
That was a good
Topic
chat.
one.
That was a good habit chat.
That was a good habit chat. Habit-chattaroo. So let us know your thoughts, what you think. If you have any facts that you'd like to spit our way, please do so. We will be very interested in hearing them. Power comes from knowledge, so
Ooh. Is that a little catchphrase?
That's a little quote from yours truly.
Oh, nice.
No, someone probably said it before.
I
think I actually said it the wrong way around. I think it's knowledge is power, not
knowledge is power.
knowledge.
Power is knowledge.
I was like, started with power, and I was like, comes from knowledge. I have to fix this up here. Yeah.
Nice wordsmithing there.
That's thinking on your feet.
Yeah.
Yep. So please subscribe to our multiple avenues of
Instagram, Facebook.
Yes.
Wherever you can find this podcast.
Give us a like, give us a thumbs up. Let your friends know who may be interested in the conversation. There'll be links to my where I found my research in the description.
Yep.
So if you'd like to read them, go for gold. And yeah, again, if you'd like to contribute in any way, we definitely encourage that. So
yep. We definitely encourage everyone to have a chat.
Have a
chat with us.
Have a chat. Yep.
There we are.
Thanks, gang. Bye.
Gotcha.
Thanks for tuning into this episode. We hope you've enjoyed this chat. Please feel free to join the discussion by finding us on social media. Here we really encourage our listeners to get involved and extend the conversation. If there's a topic that you'd like us to talk about, drop us a line. From the Habichatters, have a good day.